In 2024, the European Union made headlines around the world by taking a bold and controversial step. It imposed significant tariffs on electric vehicles imported from China. This move was not made lightly, but came after months of investigation and heated debate among EU member states, as concerns grew about the rapid influx of Chinese-made EVs flooding European markets. The EU's decision followed findings that Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers were benefiting from substantial and unfair state subsidies, giving them an artificial advantage over European competitors. Inspectors and officials scrutinized financial records and trade data, ultimately concluding that intervention was necessary to level the playing field. The new tariffs, which ranged from 27.4% to a staggering 48.1%, were designed to protect European carmakers from being undercut by the lower prices of Chinese EVs. These measures were intended to give European brands a fighting chance in their own markets, and to encourage fairer competition. But the move also highlighted a deeper issue: Europe's growing unease about its economic dependency on China, especially in strategic sectors like green technology and automotive manufacturing. The tariffs became a symbol of Europe's desire to assert more control over its economic future. However, the decision was far from unanimous. It sparked sharp divisions within the EU itself. Countries like France strongly supported the tariffs, seeing them as essential for protecting European jobs and industries. Meanwhile, Germany, with its powerful automotive sector, worried about possible Chinese retaliation and the impact on its own economy. German automotive giants such as Volkswagen, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz have invested billions in China and rely heavily on the Chinese market for sales and production. For them, the tariffs raise the specter of a trade war that could threaten their global business operations and long-standing partnerships. The new tariffs threaten to disrupt business models that had, for years, allowed German car makers to thrive by balancing production and sales between Europe and China. Analysts warned that the ripple effects could be felt across supply chains and international markets. As the dust settled, it became clear that this was more than just a trade dispute. The EU's tariffs on Chinese EVs set the stage for a broader conflict, one with far-reaching consequences for the future of the global automotive industry and the balance of economic power between Europe and China. In response to the European Union's decision to impose tariffs on Chinese goods, China wasted no time in mounting a counteroffensive. The Chinese government quickly announced a series of targeted measures designed to send a clear message to Brussels and other European capitals. Any move against Chinese interests would be met with swift and calculated retaliation. Beijing's first move was to launch anti-dumping investigations into pork and dairy imports from the European Union, zeroing in on major exporters such as Spain and France. These industries are not only economically significant, but also politically sensitive, with thousands of jobs and livelihoods at stake across rural Europe. By targeting these sectors, China aimed to create pressure points within the EU, hoping to stir up internal debate and lobbying from affected industries. The goal was to leverage the political influence of these groups to push European leaders toward reconsidering their protectionist stance. The retaliation didn't stop at agriculture. China also imposed new duties on European luxury goods, with a particular focus on French brandy and cognac. This move struck at the heart of France's prestigious spirits industry, threatening a key export market and raising concerns among luxury producers. In addition, China restricted government procurement of European medical devices, signaling a shift toward favoring domestic suppliers. This policy change had immediate implications for European manufacturers, who risked losing access to one of the world's largest healthcare markets. At the same time, China introduced visa-free travel for citizens of select EU countries. This seemingly generous gesture was a calculated move to drive a wedge between EU member states, making it harder for the bloc to present a united front in trade negotiations. Through these carefully chosen measures, China demonstrated its willingness and ability to respond forcefully to European protectionism, signaling that it would defend its interests on the global stage. Amid the escalating tariff battle between the European Union and China, global trade routes and long-standing partnerships were thrown into uncertainty. The ripple effects of this economic standoff reached far beyond the two main players, impacting industries and economies around the world. Japan's automotive industry, a pillar of its economy and a symbol of its technological prowess, suddenly faced unexpected and complex challenges. Factories that once operated at full capacity began to feel the pressure as market dynamics shifted rapidly. With new tariffs making European markets less attractive, Chinese electric vehicle manufacturers quickly redirected their focus to regions where Japanese brands had long enjoyed dominance and consumer loyalty. Southeast Asia and Australia, traditionally strongholds for Japanese automakers, suddenly saw a surge of affordable, feature-rich Chinese EVs flooding their markets. These regions became the new battlegrounds for automotive supremacy. Japanese companies, having been slow to fully embrace the electric vehicle revolution, now found themselves struggling to keep pace with their technologically advanced and agile Chinese rivals, who were quick to innovate and adapt. Consumers in these emerging markets eagerly embraced Chinese EVs, drawn not only by their affordability, but also by their cutting-edge features and eco-friendly appeal. The shift in consumer preference was swift and unmistakable. As the trade war inadvertently intensified global competition, Japan found itself caught off guard and unprepared for the rapidly changing market dynamics, facing a future that demanded urgent adaptation and innovation. Chinese EV makers facing Western tariffs pivoted to developing markets. Southeast Asia, with its growing middle class, became a prime target for Chinese EVs. Chinese companies invested in local infrastructure, building charging networks to support EV adoption. In Australia, Chinese brands offered affordable, feature-rich electric models, challenging Japanese dominance. Central Asia, disrupted by Western sanctions, welcomed Chinese EVs, filling a market void. This strategic shift allowed Chinese automakers to expand their global presence and influence. Central Asia experienced a dramatic transformation with the influx of Chinese EVs. Kazakhstan saw a 36-fold increase in Chinese EV sales, reshaping its automotive landscape. Local governments embraced the shift, partnering with Chinese companies to modernize vehicle fleets. Uzbekistan collaborated with BYD to establish a massive EV factory, boosting regional production. Kyrgyzstan became a re-export hub, facilitating the flow of Chinese cars into Russia. The region's automotive industry thrived, driven by Chinese brands and infrastructure investments. Japanese automakers faced severe consequences from the market shift. Their dominance in internal combustion engines crumbled as consumers turned to Chinese EVs and other alternatives. Sales plummeted, and dealerships struggled with unsold inventory, forcing deep discounts and financial losses. The slow transition to EVs exposed a strategic misjudgment, leaving Japanese brands significantly behind. The trade war accelerated the global EV transition, challenging Japan's long-held market leadership. Chinese brands, with their modern designs and advanced technology, captured the attention of a new generation. The EU's tariffs on Chinese EVs had unintended global consequences. While protecting Europe's auto industry, the tariffs redirected trade, intensifying competition elsewhere. Japan, caught off guard, faced a new reality as Chinese EVs flooded traditional markets. China's strategic pivot to new regions solidified its status as a leading EV superpower. The EU-China dispute underscored the interconnected nature of global trade and its geopolitical implications. Adaptability and innovation became crucial for countries and companies navigating this shifting landscape.